I warmly welcome you to this edition of Diplomatic Channel. I'm Amarachi Ubani. The UN General Assembly began on September 14th, but the first day of the high-level general debate begins Tuesday, September 21st, 2021. President Muhammadu Buhari will address the Assembly on Friday, September 24th, speaking on the theme of the summit, Building Resilience Through Hope to Recover from COVID-19, Rebuild Sustainably, Respond to the Needs of the Planet, Respect the Rights of the People, and Revitalize the United Nations. According to a statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Media, Femi Adesina, the President will be accompanied by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyeama, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, the Minister of State for Environment, Sharon Ikeazo, the National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Munguno, Director General, National Intelligence Agency, Ambassador Ahmed Rufai Abubakar, Chairman, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri Erewa, and the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs, Mrs. Adejoke Orelope Adefulire. The President and members of his delegation will participate in significant meetings, such as the high-level meeting to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the adoption of the Durban Declaration and Programme of Action on the theme, Reparations, Racial Justice and Equality for People of African Descent, and other meetings lined up. This week, however, we're taking a closer look into what's going on in Guinea. We did tell you last week that ECOWAS sent a delegation last Friday, led by the Ghanaian Foreign Minister Shirley Ayoko Bochwe, to meet with the leader of the military junta, Lieutenant Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, to demand a civilian-led transition and to visit ousted President Alpha Condé, who remains in military detention. The ECOWAS mission returned, having seen President Condé, but said the coup leaders were still not likely to give a timetable for a return to democratic rule. ECOWAS met again on Thursday and have made a decision they hope would cause the junta to rethink the coup. I'll be talking to Executive Director, West African Network for Peace Building, WANEP, Chukwuemeka Eze, who's been inside some of the deliberations on Guinea to discuss what comes next. Beyond Africa, the praises and backlash following the Australia-UK-US pact, otherwise known as AUKUS. Let's check in on those diplomatic headlines and we'll be right back. Nigeria's Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to the Arab Republic of Egypt, with concurrent accreditation to the State of Palestine and the State of Eritrea, Noura Abarimi, has presented his letters of credence to President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi of Egypt and President Mahmoud Abbas of the State of Palestine. Ambassador Rimi was warmly received by the Egyptian president in Cairo, who expressed readiness to cooperate with Nigeria in areas of mutual interest to both countries. The presentation of letters of credence to the Palestinian President, Mahmoud Abbas, was done virtually. Ambassador Rimi recalled historical ties between Nigeria and Palestine, assuring President Abbas of the commitment to strengthen and deepen relationships between Nigeria and the State of Palestine. Before his appointment as ambassador, Mr. Rimi was Director of Regions at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Abuja. The Nigerians in Diaspora Commission is celebrating success stories of Nigerians in the diaspora as part of celebrations marking Nigeria's 60th independence anniversary, by officially presenting a compendium of over 600 Nigerians abroad with amazing and inspiring stories. The compendium, titled Plus 600 Diaspora at 60, was officially presented to the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Zubairu Dada, in Abuja. Ambassador Dada said it was a thing of pride for NIDCOM to identify well over 600 successful stories of Nigerians living in the diaspora and encouraged diasporans to regard the initiative by NIDCOM as a sign they must continue to give their best in all they do and to bring back expertise to Nigeria. Finally, the U.S. Department of State's Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs has announced approximately $6.8 million in contributions to the United Nations Office for Drugs and Crime for projects in Nigeria to combat trafficking in persons. A statement from the U.S. diplomatic mission in Nigeria says the INL donation will fund UNODC to train the Nigeria Correctional Service in the northeastern states of Borno, Gombe and Adamawa. They would also support UNODC's Middle Belt Investigations Project by ensuring local police investigators in the states of Kaduna, Plateau, Benue and Nasarawa have the training and resources to respond more effectively to incidents of criminality, kidnapping and conflict. Welcome back. So it's hard to say the ECOWAS meeting last Thursday was a success, going by the reactions to it. First off, the military junta remains defiant about releasing Alpha Condé. And second, the people apparently do not want the ECOWAS sanctions imposed after their meeting in the Ghanaian capital, Accra.
Leaders in the 15-nation ECOWAS converged on the Ghanaian capital, Accra, on Thursday, September 16th, to determine how it can steer Guinea back towards constitutional rule following the coup that ousted President Alpha Condé. They were to hear a report from a ministerial mission that went to the Guinean capital, Conakry, on Friday, September 10, to meet the ruling junta. The Ghanaian president, Nana Akufo-Addo, ECOWAS current chairman, said in his remarks before leaders went into a closed-door meeting that he hopes the session would help offer durable solutions to the crisis. He also wanted leaders to hear a report from mediator in the political crisis in Mali, which has been suspended from the organization following 2 coups within a year.
We are required to take informed decisions on these matters that will have long-term consequences for the stability and the defense of the democratic values of our region. I count on you, Excellencies, to help proffer durable solutions to the crisis. And I'm confident that, as in the past, we will rise to the occasion.
While ECOWAS leaders met, the junta in Guinea held consultations with mining representatives as part of a nationwide dialogue they say will lead to the formation of a transitional government. Guinea is a major producer of bauxite, and the coup has raised concerns about supplies. The coup leaders say the week-long dialogue, which began last Tuesday, will lay out the framework for a promised government of national unity and lead the country back to constitutional order. By Friday, September 18th, ECOWAS announced it was imposing sanctions against the Guinea junta and those slowing Mali's post-coup transition in what analysts say is the toughest response yet to a run of military takeovers. ECOWAS also announced it was freezing the financial assets and imposed travel bans on Guinea's junta members and their relatives, insisting on the release of President Alpha Condé and a short transition.
The head of state insisted that the transition must be very short. Must be very short. And they even went to the way of clearly stating that the transition should not last more than 6 months. So 6 months, election should be held.
More pressure was also meted out on Mali's transitional government, demanding they stick to an agreement to organize elections for February 2022 and present an electoral roadmap by next month. Still on Friday, a delegation of West African leaders arrived in Guinea, made up of the president of Côte d'Ivoire, Alassane Ouattara, and Ghana's president, Nana Akufo-Addo, to meet with the military junta. They were met on a plain-side red carpet by coup leader Mamadi Doumbouya. Doumbouya would later tell leaders he was not concerned about new sanctions imposed by ECOWAS, neither would he succumb to pressure to release Alpha Condé. He also shrugged off ECOWAS' decision to freeze the financial assets of the junta and their relatives and bar them from traveling, saying that the soldiers worked in Guinea and there was nothing to freeze in their accounts. ECOWAS' credibility in Guinea has been strained since 2018 when the bloc failed to condemn Condé for running a 3rd term in office last year, despite a law declaring that presidents must step down after 2 terms. The soldiers say they ousted Condé because of concerns about poverty and corruption. Out on the streets of Conakry, people protested against the ECOWAS, telling them not to decide for the people of Guinea and asking the delegation to go back home.
I have joining me now, Executive Director at the West African Network for Peace Building, Mr. Chukwuemeka Eze. He joins me now from Accra, Ghana. Mr. Eze, it's nice having you on the program. We have discussed the issue of coups in Africa time and again, but the last few years are showing a ripple effect. Where do you think the problem lies?
First of all, is to acknowledge that it is a very worrisome development that we are still having cases of coup d'etat on the continent. One would have thought that by now we would have been on a better trajectory to deepening democracy on the continent, even amidst all the challenges relating to good governance. Of course, whenever the military struck, they always bring up the issues around security, economic downturn, and so on and so forth. But is that the kind of governance that Africa wants? My answer is no.
We'll be talking some more about ECOWAS in just a bit, but in the case of Guinea now, those soldiers, the military junta says ECOWAS was absent. You're rightly pointing it out, and that's because, you know, they're angry. The people apparently are angry at ECOWAS. They said that ECOWAS was absent when Alpha Condé changed the constitution to allow him run a third term. There have also been accusations of corruption by Condé's government. There's been a widespread irregularities. Does ECOWAS have any right now to tell Guinea what to do?
Definitely yes. And I think that the military junta should not think that ECOWAS was toothless, even as it appears to be that. ECOWAS is a product of the existing and extant protocols and normative frameworks that exist with which ECOWAS will operate. So, does the ECOWAS mandate allow them to intervene when a sitting president, through its National Assembly or Parliament, changes the constitution? My answer is no. So long as it has done that within the confines of the law, ECOWAS has no business there. Of course, we have continued to argue that there's a thin line between the principles of non-indifference and non-interference. You know, so when it suits the sitting presidents, which in any case had the authority of heads of state and government of ECOWAS, they will make reference to non-interference. When it does not suit them, or when they need it so badly, they will talk about non-indifference. So ECOWAS intervention, when Guinea constitutionally changed, and I'm using constitutionally in parentheses, when it constitutionally, through its parliament, changed its constitution to offer Alpha Condé a third term, ECOWAS has no role there, otherwise they will be interfering in a sovereign government.
Really? Because it seems like, you know, ECOWAS only intervenes when it is convenient. And I think that, you know, that's the argument, you know, that these African countries, Guinea and even Mali, seem to be pointing out. The fact that ECOWAS cannot call presidents to order. If there is a protocol, if ECOWAS stands for good governance and enforces good governance and, you know, the rights to rule and all of that, why doesn't it say something, you know, when these actions are actually going on? Why doesn't it call presidents to order?
Amara, the truth of the matter is that ECOWAS action is limited by its own protocols and frameworks. So ECOWAS is able to intervene now because there is a protocol that says the only way you can assume power is through a democratic process, through election. And ECOWAS has zero tolerance to military intervention or coup d'etat. However, in 2016, and I want this to be on record, the West African Network for Peace Building that I represent, together with ECOWAS Commission, tried its possible best to review the ECOWAS protocol on democracy and good governance, presented it through the then chair of the Authority of Heads of State and Government, then President Mahama, to the Authority of Heads of State and Government. Gambia and Togo kicked against it. And you know, decision-making processes in ECOWAS is not democratic, it is consensus. It is through consensus. And therefore, even if one says no, it means no. And that's how come that review process that would have included term limits did not scale through. If we had succeeded at that point, by today, if any sitting president, whether it is La Côte d'Ivoire or Guinea or any other one attempting to do that, ECOWAS would have had the leeway to intervene. But as it is now, there is nothing in the ECOWAS protocol that allows it to intervene if a sitting president seeks third term. That is the limitations that ECOWAS has.
The junta in Guinea is literally laughing in the face of the sanctions imposed. There is no hope that President Alpha Condé will be released. They've said that much. We're also seeing movement on the part of the junta towards the process of forming a transition or a government, as the case may be. They're holding consultations with different groups and different sectors. Can ECOWAS then instead perhaps work with the junta instead of making demands to help give Guinea a peaceful and smooth transition to civilian rule?
That would be setting a bad precedent. ECOWAS is very clear on its position when it comes to coup d'etat. So whether the junta likes it or not, they will work with ECOWAS because ECOWAS will use this particular tool to now elicit the support of the international community. African Union, I can tell you for free, will endorse ECOWAS position. The United Nations, you can be sure in the next General Assembly, will endorse that particular position, so long as ECOWAS is in unison about that particular decision, because they are standing on the protocols that Guinea is also a signatory to, which is zero tolerance to coup d'etat. So I understand that, of course, that it is rather very hasty to think that elections can be concluded and a transition in 6 months, but at least Guinea junta should show some level of progress or reception of ECOWAS decision. If they think that they can do without ECOWAS, that would be a huge joke, because the citizens of Guinea, and I'm happy that they are actually even putting the sanction on persons that are targeted, so they would find it difficult to operate. They will find it definitely difficult to operate. It has happened in the past in Côte d'Ivoire, and we have lessons to learn across the region.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what lessons, there are really to learn, because there's also Mali on the side. But what happens for Guinea after the 6 months are expired and the junta still does not conform with ECOWAS demands?
Remember that preventive diplomacy is what ECOWAS has been using even prior to this period of the coup d'etat, trying to prevail on Professor Alpha Condé to rekindle his decision on third term. So a lot has been happening behind the scene. Civil society movements have been also putting pressure on Alpha Condé. That will continue. However, if the junta does not also accept or work with ECOWAS in this regard, remember also that we have an ECOWAS standby force, and that's also on the table, and I'm sure they know that.
Yeah, the ECOWAS standby force made up mainly of Nigerian soldiers who at this time are preoccupied with insecurity in Nigeria. But let's talk a bit about Mali, because the situation is almost similar. ECOWAS says the junta is not moving fast enough. What lessons can be learned from both scenarios, or can they feed off each other?
I think the first lesson is that ECOWAS gave 1 year for Mali transition, and they started negotiating 18 months, and from 18 months now to something else. So I think the first lesson that ECOWAS learns is not to give more than 6 months. But for Mali, I think that what is important now is that it is now clear to us, two things that are very clear to us, that there is a nexus between violent extremism and overstay in power, especially this third-term bid. The second lesson that we must learn is that it is now high time that the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of States and Governments and us in civil society and the media begin to push again the review of the ECOWAS protocol.
I don't know if you have noticed, but in both countries, when the junta deposed the ruling president, the people appear to be very pleased about it. They were running through the streets, celebrating. Does that count for anything?
Yes, it does. It tells you the deficit in leadership that we continue to experience in Africa. So the demise or the exit of any sitting president elicit that kind of joyous moment for citizens, with the hope that things will change. But of course, that is not to say that it is now the best form of government. But it sends signal to African leaders that they should focus more on citizens' welfare and good governance, rather than just grabbing power and using that negatively. If care is not taken, the citizens' uprising in Africa will be more disastrous than the leaders would think of it. We have serious leadership deficit in Africa today.
Couldn't have said it better, Mr. Eze. Thank you so much for speaking with me on Diplomatic Channel.
My pleasure always, Amara. Thank you for having me.
There have been varying reactions to the new security pact signed between the United States, the UK and Australia last week. Known as AUKUS, the deal will see Australia being given the technology to build nuclear-powered submarines. It's expected to counter China's influence over the South China Sea or in the Indo-Pacific region. It's good news for Australia, only it pitches friends against each other. France is pained about the deal because it thwarts a multi-billion-dollar deal it signed with Australia for the same purpose. The country's Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian says France was only informed about the deal only hours before the public announcement was made last week.
C'est vraiment en bon français.
Mr. Jean-Yves Le Drian has wasted no time in calling the United States out on the deal. During the week, he said it felt like being stabbed in the back. By Friday, France recalled its ambassadors from Washington and Canberra, the first time it has happened in the history of relations between the United States and France. The new tripartite cancels a multi-billion-dollar submarine contract by France with Australia. Le Drian says the ambassadors have been recalled for consultations as there has been duplicity, contempt, and lies from the new partners. France's President Emmanuel Macron is scheduled to have a call with the U.S. President in the next few days over the recent event and will be seeking clarification over the cancellation of its submarine order with Australia. China's foreign ministry has decried the new tripartite, saying the three countries are damaging regional peace and stability. It will, however, closely monitor the situation.
严重破坏地区和平稳定。
Australia has defended its handling of the deal for French submarines, saying concerns over it had been raised to Paris for months. Prime Minister Scott Morrison said he understood France's disappointment about the cancellation of the order, valued at $40 billion in 2016 and reckoned to cost much more money today, but reiterated that Australia must always take decisions in its best interests. The Biden administration defended its decision to provide Australia with advanced technology for nuclear-powered submarines, rejecting criticism from both China and France over the deal. White House spokeswoman Jen Psaki said on Thursday the agreement is not aimed at China, although the United States has mounting concerns about Chinese influence in the Indo-Pacific region.
And Australia, two of our closest allies, to ensure peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson told his parliament on Thursday that the new security partnership was not meant to be adversarial to any other power, and it would reduce the costs of Britain's next generation of nuclear submarines.
AUKUS is not intended to be adversarial towards any other power, Mr. Speaker, but it merely reflects the close relationship that we have with the United States and with Australia, the shared values that we have, and the sheer level of trust between us.
In response to the new deal, the European Union has decided it must develop its own defense and security strategies, particularly in the Indo-Pacific. Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell says he was not consulted on the agreement, but the EU's plan would give the bloc a higher diplomatic profile on Indo-Pacific issues to give more EU personnel and investment in the region and a security presence, such as dispatching ships through the South China Sea. China, on the other hand, has applied to join the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, a move it says is completely unrelated to the AUKUS security deal. The CPTPP was signed by 11 countries, including Australia, Canada, Chile, Japan, and New Zealand in 2018. Before that, it was known as the Trans-Pacific Partnership and seen as an important economic counterweight to China's regional influence.
And that's Diplomatic Channel this week. Thanks for watching. Remember, other episodes can be viewed online on youtube.com/channelsweb. I'm Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.